Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. How's it going? People are rolling in. Okay, as people are rolling in, we really do want you to be using the chat and be interactive. So feel free to go in the comments and let us know maybe what level your gymnast is and where you're from. We had lots of states last time and Canada and a few countries. So love to see. Start off Michigan. Australia, super fun. Oh, yeah. While you do that, I will get our mindset training up. Illinois, California. Got people from everywhere. New York, more Canada. Awesome. UK. Glad you all could make it. I know that the time changes can be tricky. We'll get started here in just a minute or two, letting a few more people get in. Oh, New Zealand. Fun. I visited New Zealand. That was one of my favorite trips ever. Actually, I did an Australia, New Zealand 3-week trip. It was awesome. Fun to have you all here.
Okay, I've been talking this whole time and didn't realize I was muted.
I thought it was weird that I didn't hear you, but I was just going with it.
Like, oh, New Zealand, California. And I was like, wait a minute. Allie said the exact same thing I just said. Hey, everybody. This is Stacy. And as you're also leaving your where you're from, we'd love to hear what brought you here. So go ahead and type on in there. What brought you to this training? What are you hoping to get out of it? We just want to make sure that we deliver that. Kristen. All right. All right. So let's get started. My name is Stacy Fletcher, and I am the co-owner of Gymnastics Mindset Academy, along with Allie Havel. And we also have Kathleen here with us. Kathleen is one of the coaches in our Gold membership, but she is also our customer service extraordinaire. So she will be in the comments answering questions that you guys have. Yeah, we're just so excited to have everybody here and to be able to share the things that we normally, we spend all of our days talking to kids. So it's fun to have adult conversations and the things that we normally teach kids to be able to share with you as parents. So yeah, helping your kids with struggles that they're having on beam, on floor, mental blocks, beam. Yeah, I say a day I don't coach on beam. A day I don't coach on beam is a day I probably coach. It's usually the things that, kids struggle with the most, but obviously all the different things. So awesome. Well, we will definitely be covering all of that. So let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Stacy. Like I said, I was a gymnast, then I was a gymnastics coach. I was a gymnast at the lower levels, coached all the way through the higher levels up through college. I quit gymnastics in my freshman year of high school, and then it's funny. I quit because I wanted more time, and then I just started coaching. And then within like a month, I was coaching all the exact same hours that I had been training in the gym. But, I was getting paid for it instead of paying. So I guess that was good. But then it turned into my college job, my college passion. I lived for coaching gymnastics through college, much more than my degree. And then when I got out of it, I joined a nonprofit, and I really missed the sport. And so I got into blogging about elite level gymnastics, which took me into the media world, got to go to the Rio Olympics as media. So I've been involved in the gymnastics world kind of in every different way, shape, and form. And then added to it the mindset coach. So super excited to be here today. Allie, you want to tell them a little bit about you?
Yeah, just real quick. I have been doing gymnastics since I was, have been, like I still am, definitely not. I did gymnastics starting at the age of 4, and then I did 3 years of level 10, and then I competed Division III gymnastics at the University of Wisconsin lacrosse. Then I ended up staying there for 5 more years and getting my master's degree in strength and conditioning. And I was the assistant coach and recruiting coordinator at the college. So that was super fun. And during that time, I also got to teach at the college, the strength and conditioning classes. So a lot of programming and teaching through that. And during the 2020 shenanigans, I ended up getting certified as a life coach. So we'll tell you more about that. But thank you for being here. We are super excited to share this with you. We are very passionate about getting this information out to parents and gymnasts as well. And we're excited. So we're going to get started. So
I also want to shout out to, I've seen the names of a number of parents of kids that are in our program. We're so excited to have you here. Feel free to jump in the comments with any perspective that you have as you have had your kid already in our program. We love hearing from you guys, and we love to, just want to invite you that you are totally welcome to share your experience in the comments as well. So, all right, Allie, take it away.
Yes, please do that. So moms, or I do see some dads or coaches here. We're so glad that everyone's here, but you're in the right place. If your gymnast is sulky and she's struggling, but won't talk with you about practice, right? We have these gymnasts who are quiet and bummed out, but not sharing. We also have the ones that fill you with lots of information, and we'll teach you what to do with that in a little bit. But you're also in the right place if you hate watching her struggle, but you just don't know what to say, and you're afraid to make it worse, to say things that are going to maybe get in her head, and you think that you're going to just expand on that. Your gymnast isn't getting the skills she needs for the next level due to the fear and self-imposed limitations that she has mentally put on herself, not necessarily physically, but mentally put those on. And your gymnast spends maybe half her time thinking about quitting, even after all the time and investment that you have put in, she has put in. It's really a whole group effort up to this point. And she's just not sure if this is where she wants to stay and keep going. So this is what some of our moms has said about our trainings. The gist of this here is that they like getting just tips and little tools of what to say and how to support them through the process, really understanding, not just quick things to change up understanding what's going on mentally so that they can continue to help them through the process. So feel free to check these out. You are going to get a recording of this session. So if we go through some slides too fast and you're like, I could not read that, or I need to check back, you can do that at any time. All right. We have to power through some of this. Our one at noon, we had to power through. Me and Stacy like to talk and teach. So Stacy, what happens if they're not, or what shows them that they're not in the right place?
Yeah, so you are not in the right place if you feel like you already really know how to handle this on your own and you're just not open to learning new methods. This probably isn't going to be very helpful for you. If you think that the only time gymnasts need mental training is when they are in crisis, that's definitely not the case. I kind of feel like that usually is the same as like not teaching them how to stretch until after they've gotten an injury. We definitely love to help gymnasts get the tools they need before they hit crisis. If you think the answer that she needs is just to power through, get over it, and work harder. We hear that a lot, especially from dads. This is probably not going to be the kind of stuff that floats your boat if that is your main feeling and you don't really want to be challenged on that. And then lastly, if you get upset or offended when someone gives you a free training and then makes an offer at the end, because we definitely are going to give you an opportunity to continue working with us, but we hope that it will be a welcome offer. So yeah. But what we want to do is, because we hope it'll be a welcome offer, because we think that like once you've learned these tools, you're really going to want the rest of the tools that we have to offer for our gymnasts. But we want to jump right on in to give you what you actually signed up for, which is how to help them overcome their fears. So this is what you're going to learn today, is how your gymnast brain works so that you know what she's struggling with, even when she's not willing to share it with you. We hear from parents all the time, like, I just don't understand my gymnast. One, Allie and I, we were your gymnasts in terms that we have been there, done that. We think like gymnasts. We understand the struggles of the typical gymnastics brain. But also we talk to gymnasts all day long. So we're pretty well versed in gym speak and gymnastics and what they're gymnasts, what they're thinking. And so we can help you understand the things that they can't articulate or maybe won't. We're going to help you learn what you can say and ask your daughter, even give you little scripts that you could use and make your own to help her when she's struggling. We're going to teach you a 4-step mindset progression that successful gymnasts use in our program to get the skills that they need. And we're going to teach you how you get to show up as her #1 fan and support her well, even when it's hard. So if you stay all the way to the end, Allie and I do like to talk, but we're trying to be on time. If you stay all the way to the end, we have 2 bonuses. One, we're going to give you a bonus training at the very end that is the favorite of many of our gymnasts and some of our parents. I've had parents tell me, like, I overheard you teaching my daughter that, and I use it while I'm in the stands all the time. And then bonus number 2, we are actually going to just randomly pick from everybody who's here at the very end, and we're going to send out a goodie bag with t-shirt and lots of our fun swag to the lucky winner. We are also going to give you a special offer that's only available on the webinar and won't be available on the replay. So stay to the end for that. But before we get to that, we want to tell you a little bit about ourselves and what led us here. So I told you that I was involved in the media side of gymnastics. And in that, I had opportunities to sit alongside the stands of parents for hours and hours on end at many, national elite level competitions. I sat with grandparents, I sat with parents, and heard their stories about the experience that they and their gymnasts had. I had lots of opportunities to talk with coaches, to talk with the gymnasts, to text with the coaches, live updates as things were happening. And I had lots of opportunities to be live in the experiences with the highest level athletes. I got to go to Rio. In Rio, I had the opportunity to interview and talk with the alternate gymnasts and the alternate coaches. Talk about a heartbreaking experience being an alternate at the Olympics. Like, they lived in the worst scenario. They had like the worst training gym, but they had to put the same amount of training in just in case they got called in. So I've walked through all of this with them. And one of the biggest things that I came out of was that it's so hard. I've had one elite, world champions mom tell me that the biggest regret that she had was that she didn't get her gymnast mental training earlier, because she had no idea, no understanding of the level of emotional toil that gymnastics was taking on her daughter. And if she could tell any parent anything, it would be to get them training earlier. And I experienced it firsthand in the Olympics, because I was there with a bunch of chaplains. And one of the chaplains said, being a chaplain at the Olympics is like going to 9 funerals and 1 wedding every day. And honestly, you walked around and it felt like it was this weird combination of every once in a while you would see someone who was happy and excited, but mostly everyone looked like they were attending a funeral. The tension was terrible. Like, I would go to the little like Walmart kind of store and it would be like, what's happening here? Like, it was terrible. And I just kept thinking, I just want to help. I just want to help. I just want to help. I got onto the plane, got to the Delta Lounge, and there was Gabby Douglas and her mom. Gabby had a pretty terrible time at the Olympics, had a lot of, just pretty difficult social media trolling, I guess would be the best word. But there was a lot behind the scenes that happened too. And her mom and I just sat and talked for an hour, and I just thought, I just want to help. I just want to help. And eventually I went and got coached, or I went and got certified to be a life coach. And as I began to learn tools there for myself, for my own life, to transform my own life, I just thought, this is the answer. This is how I help. These are the tools I want to bring to the gymnastics world, because I believe that they would change it drastically. Allie, what about you?
Well, as I said before, I coached college gymnastics, and I was in the assistant role position, and it was amazing. I loved it. My personality, I don't know if you can tell in that picture, I was definitely the hype girl. I was the
Still is.
go get it, scream, and it was super fun. I was all about it and I loved it. But there was an extent where that ended and wasn't helpful anymore for the gymnast, where like I could only want it so much and be so pumped and excited for the gymnast, to where that ended and they needed help being excited for themselves and learning how to do that. And it wasn't something I was trained in as a coach. Like, I had no idea how to do that or what to do. The girls with the mental blocks, I was like, I honestly said to the head coach, I was like, I just don't know how to help them. I cheer them on, I do the things, but they're still stuck, in quotes, stuck. So I was in this place of trying to be this hype woman. And in addition to that, as the assistant coach, I ended up being the one, that's easier to talk to for the girls, like relatable. And I was a little closer to their age. I'm not the one who had to like lay down the law and the rules like the head coach. So I'm end up being the more approachable one. So not only am I seeing this barrier for them getting better in their skills, I'm getting all of the really deep, like life struggles, school struggles, anxiety, depression, like all the things that come with going to college and being on your own and, just trying to navigate through this world. And I just wanted to be able to help. And what happened was we ended up hiring a life coach, someone certified in the life coach school, to come in and work with some of our gymnasts that were struggling. And it seriously got to the point where the practice would be over and I could go up to the head coach and be like, this person and this person met with the life coach, didn't they? And she'd be like, yep, because I saw such a change in their ability. It wasn't necessarily that they were happy all the time now, but in their ability to deal with all the obstacles and all of the things that came with trying to overcome fears and trying new challenges and, being a part of this world. So I could see them deal with it and create their own energy. And it was so amazing. And eventually I was at this point where I was hoping to get married and my husband and I were going to move. And I was like, well, there's no college team here that I really want to work with. Like, what should I do? And the head coach was like, get certified as a life coach. And I was like, yes, I can come in and help. I can do these things. So then I went through that entire process and met Stacy. And here we are today. And it has been every bit worth it. And we are so excited to be here. So, what we have created is Gymnastics Mindset Academy, and our mission is to develop happy, healthy gymnasts who know how to win in and out of the gym. Now, let me be clear. We like to win. As I am as competitive as it gets, we are all about winning and getting our skills and mastering those mental blocks. But to the core, to the deep down core, all we really want is for them to be able to use these skills in life and live a fulfilling life that helps them be the best version of themselves. So we're really in it for, it's more about the person, but the gymnastics is also an important side effect. So that's kind of how we became who we are and why we're here today. And we're going to dive in next to the actual 4-step process that we've been teasing you about. But we just like to give you a little bit of background about us so you know why this is so important to us and where we are at. So 4 steps, we're going to go through them and then we'll recap for you. But we're going to deal a lot with facing feelings and dealing with feelings, and we're going to deal with separating facts from thoughts. Okay, so that's where we're actually going to start today. So facing the feeling, where is this feeling coming from? A lot of times we like to blame the skill. So this gymnast will be like, that back handspring on beam is scary. That giant is scary. That round off back handspring is scary. Those are all things I saw in your guys' chat over here. Okay, so this skill is making them feel that way. And that is not necessarily how it works. So I'm going to, side note, talk about a non-gymnastics related story, and then we'll bring it back. Okay, so I think this is very important for you to understand in order for the rest of the training to continue to make sense and build on itself. So I like hiking. I don't know if you like hiking, raise a hand. Big hiking fan. This story is when I was 12. My parents took me hiking, I think, just to get rid of all my energy because, like any other young gymnast, I literally had to run around on vacation or else they couldn't handle me. So I was out hiking with my family, and we're in Arizona. We're about halfway up this mountain, in quotes. I don't think it was that big, but we're halfway up, and there's a huge group of people standing in a circle, like staring at something and pointing at it and being like, oh my gosh, like, look at that, blah, blah, blah. And so, of course, I'm stoked. I'm like, this has got to be something sweet. So I go like running all the way up the mountain, and I get there and I have a full-on meltdown, panic attack. I'm crying. I physically can't even move anymore. And my parents like legitimately thought I was injured, like that I'd broken my ankle, something bad had happened. They come running up there and they find out that I'm fine. And usually I get the girls involved and get them to guess, but I'm just going to keep it going for you today. And it was a tarantula. So in Arizona, hiking, tarantula, and this is the time when I literally had to get my dad to carry me past it. And I was a mess. And there were tons of people that are standing there that were just fine. And so, Stacy, I'm going to just make it simple today. What am I afraid of?
The tarantula.
The tarantula. That is the number one answer we get that makes the most sense, right? I am afraid of a tarantula. But if that was the case, like, there's people standing around looking, pointing, plenty of people not having full meltdown panic attacks. So why weren't they afraid if the tarantula could make me feel afraid? If the tarantula could be like, you're afraid, you're afraid, you're afraid, then everybody would have been feeling the exact same way. That wasn't the case. So why I was afraid is because I was thinking about the tarantula. My thoughts in this moment was, oh my gosh, that could ever happen to me. I think I'm going to die. What if on our way back down, it's moved and I see it again and then it attacks me, and like literally went into this full on, like, I thought I was going to die in that moment. The other people around me, so of course I feel fear, right? Like if you were thinking that, you'd feel terrified of anything. So the people around me, they were feeling almost more curious or interested. Like I was getting different vibes from them, or they just didn't care. And some of the things I was hearing that could be interpreted as thoughts is, I wonder what kind it is, or I wonder if it's poisonous, or I've never seen one, not at a zoo. And other things I heard was like, oh, it's Arizona, they're all everywhere. right? So they just didn't care. So their thoughts about the tarantula did not change or were different than mine. And that's why it changed how they felt. So the tarantula in this situation would be the circumstance. The tarantula is the fact. Everybody in the entire world could agree that it was a tarantula, hairy, eight-legged spider. Okay. Can't change that fact. Actually is completely neutral. There is no emotion involved with that thing. Okay. And then my thoughts were my opinions about it, my judgments about it, anything that I was applying to it. And that's what made me feel something about it. Okay. So cool. Great tarantula story, Allie. How does this relate to gymnastics? Well, I teach the girls that, or we teach the girls, I think Stephen has a skydiving story, but we teach the girls that skills are just like tarantulas. Okay. So a skill is a circumstance. It has no meaning. It has no feelings associated. It's completely neutral. It's a skill. Everybody in the entire world can agree a cartwheel is a cartwheel. And that's what it is. Okay. The reason you feel a certain way about it is because you have thoughts that make you feel that way. Now, that seems like a very simple thing, but it's so, so important because it gives your gymnast the power back. Because if the gymnast believes that the cartwheel is making her feel fear, or the back handspring or the giant or whatever it is, if that skill is making her feel fear and that's just a fact, then there's nothing she can do about it. It won't change and she's stuck. But if it's what she's thinking about the skill, then she has the ability to decide if that's what she wants to think and how she wants to feel and what to do with those thoughts. It gives her the power. Now, I made that sound like super casual, like she gets to decide if she wants to think that or not. That's the whole process that we're going to help you through or them through. There's a lot more to it, but that's the general idea where they at least feel like they have the ability. So I'm just going to show you how this works visually. And how we have the girls do it. We don't always go this in depth, but I really think it's important for you to kind of see this. So a lot of times we have them start with a list of emotions. So these are ones that we hear really, really often from them. Fear, confident, nervous, calm. Either that's how they're feeling or how they want to be feeling. So we have a list of emotions. You could pick a list of emotions as a coach, as a parent, whatever. And the next thing you're going to have them do is pick a skill that makes them feel this way. So you're not yet teaching them that like thoughts are creating this feeling. You just want them to find a skill that makes them feel that way. They all have skills they can think of pretty quickly of like, oh, I'm afraid of my series on beam. Like Stacy and I said, a day that we coach not talking about beam is a day we don't coach usually. So series on beam, I feel fear. I feel confident on my round off back handspring back tuck on floor. And I feel nervous to do my release on bars. Whatever it might be, have them list them out. And then you want them to try and find the thought. Because if you start with the thought, they get very confused, but being able to show them that, okay, so what makes you feel fear? Like what about the series makes you feel afraid? Or why do you feel confident in that skill? Okay. A lot of times fear, they're afraid of, missing something and splitting the beam, some sort of hurt. Confident, it's usually, I've done it a billion times, so I know I can do it. So a lot of times there's a reason why. And then I like to play with it and just show them, oh, so if you thought that you might miss your feet on this skill that you feel calm about, do you think you'd actually start feeling fear about it or nervous? And they're like, yeah. And you start showing them how, like, if you thought something different, how they would feel different without having to change the skill. Or my favorite is if you do have a group of gymnasts or you have a few people and I have them fill this out like as a group in a group setting, and one person will write back handspring for their fear skill and another person will write back handspring for their confidence skill. So just like my tarantula story, I can be like, oh, so if the skill made you feel that way, how come one of you wrote fear for it and one of you wrote confident for it? And then you can start really just challenging those beliefs that the skill makes them feel that way. Okay, this is a big concept. And if you go in talking to your daughter and you're just like, just so you know, you're feeling that way because of your thought and not because of the skill, they're going to roll their eyes, teenagery things, or they're going to be like, okay, whatever. But there are a lot of things that you can do when you're talking to her to help her. You want to help her make a distinction between the thoughts or their brain and them. So like just speaking about their brain separate from them, like your brain is telling you. I'll give you some examples of things to say in the next slide, but like being able to separate those two things is going to be very helpful. And then talk about their thoughts as thoughts and avoid agreeing with them to make it a fact. Like if they say this is skill is scary, not necessarily being like, yep. There are ways to be like, oh, that's interesting that you're thinking that way. Do you think that's true? Do you think it's a thought or a fact? Like I said, I'll give you some more ideas in the next slide, but just challenging those. And then subtly shifting to past tense. Like, I know you have been thinking this. It has been a struggle. And that can help them release with like, that's a fact in this right now. And then subtly redirect them from blaming the skill. So like I talked about, they like to be like, well, it's the skill's fault, or this giant is scary, and being able to redirect that. So you can do that by using some of these different things of what an interesting thought your brain is offering you. Or, oh, I'm curious as to why your brain is offering you that. Why do you think it came up with that? I notice your brain is telling you. Or I wonder if your brain is telling you a fact or a thought. What do you think? And just like challenging that it has to be true. And when you can challenge that and start releasing the fact like, oh, like I guess other people don't necessarily think it's scary. So it's not 100% always a fact. Being able to challenge that is going to help release them from believing it's the skill's fault and be able to move on to our next steps. So Stacy, what do we do with our feelings now?
Yeah. And I do want to say that I think using an example like Allie used of the tarantula or something that's kind of unremoved from gymnastics can be the biggest way to help them understand that concept. So anything that is relatable for you, where you were feeling one thing, but other people were feeling others. I always use skydiving. Like I actually loved skydiving. And when I think about skydiving, I feel peaceful. But most people don't feel peaceful when they think about skydiving. So, being able to first help them get that concept is going to be the first step for them. And I do want to say about fear. I'm going to take a little sidestep here and just talk about fear itself. So these 4 F's actually work for all feelings that maybe are getting in the way. But fear is, fear is unique. Well, it's not. Anyways, here's the thing about fear. Your brain is 95% of the time, your body is being run by your primary brain. Some people call it the lizard brain, the subconscious brain. It's the part of your brain that just kind of runs things in the background. And 90% of the time, that's what's running the show. And that part of your brain has one job and one job only. Does not care about goals. It doesn't care about reaching goals. It doesn't care about your future plans. All it cares about is your survival. And the hard part is a lot of that part of your brain is kind of outdated technology. Think about your brand new phone running on, a 10-year-old operating system. It just doesn't quite work in today's phones. And the same way, this part of our brain, though, is amazing for so many things. When it comes to this, it doesn't quite work because it is created for a time in human history when, we were in very real physical danger from animals, from other people, when we had to, hunt and forage for our food. It's made for a time, or not just a time. There are many people who are still living in that reality in today, but that's what it's made for. It is not made for people who are sitting in a cushy computer office thing. And so our brain thinks we're in danger. It's constantly looking for danger, and it defines danger as anything that it doesn't have enough evidence for that you are safe and successful. So anything that it doesn't actually matter if it's actually dangerous or not. People can live in very dangerous situations and not be afraid as long as they've lived in that dangerous situation for a long time. And their brain's like, we're fine, even though they're like actually facing death all the time. It's not a good judge of if they're actually in danger, but it is always going to think they're in danger and be telling them they're in danger. So when your daughter is feeling afraid, her brain is working exactly like it's supposed to be. And here's the deal, guys. I mean, I love gymnastics. I love it. I'm obsessed with the sport. Like, like right now we're starting this big elite season with all these big names coming back. Like, I'm obsessed with the sport. But I'm going to tell you, there are times where I'm sitting coaching kids, like helping them walk through, like, they are in actual danger sometimes. The things that they're trying to overcome their fear of are not little. I mean, sometimes they are. So their brain is working like it's supposed to. And we want to help them understand that first, because they are gymnasts. The amount of judgment that they have against themselves for being afraid is so huge. The amount of judgments they probably experience from their coach, or even sometimes from you as the parent, because it's hard to understand their fear, but their brain is working like it's supposed to, and helping take that amount of pressure off that their brain is working like it's supposed to is going to do the biggest to help them. So once they get that understanding, then we want to help them learn how to actually deal with the feeling of fear. Allie, can you give me the next slide?
Yeah.
You're like, you talked and talked.
I was just so loved what you were saying.
So here's what a feeling is. A feeling is simply a chemical hormonal release from the brain to the body. And the feeling is the word label that we give that physical sensation that we experience. And we tend to have similar physical sensational experiences around the same feelings. That's why we have emojis. So we have the embarrassed emoji with, the cheeks all flaming red. And you notice when you feel embarrassed that your face feels really hot and you feel like heat's rising up. Like, there's a lot of similar experiences that we have. And what we're taught to do with emotions that we label as negative or what we're taught that happens with emotions, is that we either react to them, we resist them, or we avoid them. We run away from them. So we react to them. We take action out of them. And that is actually how our body is designed. Our body is designed to have a feeling, and that feeling fuels us to take an action. So when that's happening, we're operating just as we are supposed to. But what happens with these negative emotions is we're like, I don't want to take action out of that feeling. I don't want to take action from fear. I don't want to take action from anger. And so we resist it. We talk about, like, pretend you're standing in a pool with a beach ball in front of you and you hold the beach ball down. It doesn't take a lot of work. Just hold it down. It's not really that hard. But eventually, it does get hard. Your arms get tired. You run out of that, or you get distracted by something. You let go. It pops back up. It's super intense. When we resist an emotion, we're actually focusing subconsciously on that emotion, which is strengthening it and strengthening it and strengthening it. Eventually, our willpower runs out and the emotion explodes up. And our experience of the emotion is far more intense than it would have originally been. The last thing that we do is we try to avoid an emotion. We run away from it. We actually do something to create a dopamine release in our body to feel good for a minute and numb away. So we go shopping, we social media, we eat sugar, we do something to distract ourselves from the emotion. But what we want to teach, or what we teach kids to do, and what we want to teach you is how to allow an emotion to be there without reacting to it and without resisting it. So basically what this does is it basically, imagine that beach ball, just lets the beach ball float. It's not a problem. It's just a beach ball. It can float there. It's a little uncomfortable. Yeah, maybe it's blocking the beautiful view you want to be looking at, but it's not a big deal. We're just going to let it float. So when we allow ourselves to feel an emotion, we open up to the emotion, we stop resisting it, we just let it be there. We can be uncomfortable. Sometimes when we feel an emotion and we allow our body to actually tune into the physical experience of feeling the emotion, it doesn't feel great. But the discomfort is necessary to diffuse the emotion. And for everyone, I teach entrepreneurs about time management. Doing things that you don't feel like doing, dealing with uncomfortable emotions, that's a part of life for everyone. But gymnasts have a special superpower. They do things that are really physically uncomfortable all the time. They do strength and conditioning. They do flexibility. They swing bars with rips of skin pulled out of their hands like it's nothing. Gymnasts are actually very good at experiencing difficult, uncomfortable emotions and not letting it mean a thing and continuing on doing the thing that they're doing. So compared to that, experiencing the discomfort of a negative emotion is easy. So once they kind of get that concept, they usually are much more on board with doing it. So here's how we teach one method of allowing yourself to experience an emotion without reacting to it. The first is just noticing it and naming it. I notice that I'm feeling fear. I notice that I'm feeling frustrated. We actually like to have our gymnasts pull out a feelings list so that they can get a little more granular. Fear actually has lots of different nuances. So are you feeling nervous or are you feeling terrified? Because those feel differently. And so we have them pick the emotion that they're really feeling and then naming it. And then the next is opening up to it and observing it. So the way that I like to open up to it is just to say, and that's okay. I notice that I'm feeling afraid and that's okay. I notice that I'm feeling frustrated and that's okay. I notice that I'm feeling terrified and that's okay. And then the next we have them do is tune into their body and how it feels physically in their body. Where do you feel it? How would you describe it? And we ask them to give it a color. So I'm going to have everybody practice just for a minute. I want everyone to close your eyes, and I want you to think of an uncomfortable, negative emotion you've had maybe today or yesterday, maybe fear, frustration, irritation, anger. And I just want you to notice the feeling and name it. I noticed that I was feeling. And now I want you to observe your body, and you're just going to scan. Do a little body scan. What part of your body do you feel the physical vibration of that emotion? For fear, a lot of time it's in the stomach or the chest. For anger, it's often in the shoulders and the throat and the head. Where do you feel it in your body? Then when you identify it, is it hard or is it soft? Is it moving or is it still? If it's moving, is it fast or slow? And if you had to give it a color, what color would you give it? So for me, I'm picking nervous. And for me, nervous feels like a fast moving feeling in my stomach. You know, we say butterflies in your stomach. And it's yellow. So I'm going to focus now all my attention on this fast yellow moving feeling in my stomach. And I'm just going to open up to it. Literally like lift my chin, open my chest, and physically open my body up to the feeling and just let it be there. Breathe into it. And then open your eyes. Now, we actually take our gymnasts through a process to literally process the emotion all the way through. When you keep on going in this process, most emotions will process through in 90 seconds. I want to say that again. Most emotions will process through in 90 seconds. The amount of like ice cream I've eaten or things I've bought on social media to run away from a feeling that would have processed through in 90 seconds if I just knew this process astounded me when I first learned it. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. That was it. But for fear with gymnasts, as long as they keep doing the thing they're afraid of, it's going to keep coming back. So we actually teach them to just learn how to allow it to be there without a problem. It doesn't have to go away. They can just open up to it and let it be in their body. Most of them describe fear as a tight burning sensation in their stomach. And I'm like, when else do you have a tight burning sensation in your stomach? Oh, when you do hollow holds or any other ab workout. You do it every single day without a problem. You can do this without a problem too. So, tips and questions. Continue to remember, thoughts, not facts. Reiterate that fear is completely normal, especially when you're challenging yourself to try something new. And then normalize negative emotions as a part of a full life. even let them see you experience them as well, or talk about your experiences. Remember, you don't have to react to an emotion to feel it. And so you can tell them, yeah, I'm feeling frustrated. It doesn't mean you have to show them you're frustrated. It just means let them know that negative emotions are a normal part of a human life. And we want to be able to experience the full spectrum. If we're going to feel super happy, we also have to be able to feel super sad. Our body doesn't let us. Either we pull ourselves to the middle where we're kind of more like robots, which is what a lot of athletes do. A lot of gymnasts come out of elite gymnastics feeling like a robot because they don't know. You can't feel the positive when you can't feel the negative. And they have tried so hard to tune off the negative, they've also tuned off all the positive. And so we want to have a full experience where we experience sadness and anger and frustration, and we also experience happiness and excitement and joy. And then things you might say is, I know it feels so true, but do you think that could be a thought, not a fact? Of course you were feeling afraid today. You were trying something new, or you were doing that skill that you've been feeling afraid of. Be prepared. Here's something like you're taking them to the gym and you know they're going to be working. Like I have gymnasts who, we're working. Well, okay, I was coaching a gymnast earlier today, a skill that she's had a 2-year mental block on. She's been afraid of it. And then she did really well on it for 2 weeks. And then now she like moved up and she was afraid of it again. And she was so surprised. And I'm like, be prepared. It's possible that you're going to feel fear when you challenge yourself to do something new. Let's be prepared for that instead of being surprised by it. And then, so you might ask them on the way to the gym, like, hey, how are you going to, if you feel fear when you're, working on your, your beam series today, how are you prepared to deal with it? And helping them be prepared ahead of time. And then negative emotions are a totally normal part of life. I feel them too.
Awesome. Okay, I just wanted to jump in because we had a lot of comments or questions about my gymnast fear is real because they've gotten injured on this before and now they're trying to do it again. Absolutely. It was real before they got injured, probably. But yes, they are going to feel some fear. And kind of where Stacy was at with this is we're not trying to get rid of that fear really necessarily. Like whenever, even for you guys, like if you're like in an interview for a new job maybe, or you're going to make a big life change or a move, a lot of times you feel fear with that and they're not going to get rid of it, but knowing what to do with it can help you. And these next steps are going to help them determine that they're actually safe to do the skill, because we don't want to get rid of fear because that is literally what's there to keep us safe and keep us alive. And so we do need to check ourselves. If there's an athlete that is maybe barely able to do a layout by themselves, we don't want them throwing a double back on the floor, because that legitimately is dangerous. And so this part, once we can get them out of fear, out of fight or flight, then we're actually, I went the wrong way. Then we're actually able to be thinking with our conscious, like engaged brain that can make decisions. And so
can I also answer real quick, Allie?
Yeah.
So one of the things too is that when you are acting out of fear, when you're reacting out of fear, you're not using your logical brain. And so that is when most injuries happen, is when kids are just checking the skill. They're like, I just got to go for it. And they just throw it, but they're not thinking about the technique. They're not focused on their body. They're not telling their body what to do. So their best bet in being able to come back from an actual thing that has happened is to be able to learn how to calm that fear down and then take action out of different emotions, because that's what's going to help them stay safe. So keep going.
So yeah, so this step is going to help them make logical decisions. And then Stacy's going to teach you after on how to take action out of new emotions. So, so once they've diffused their fear, once it's, they know that it's that feeling, their butterfly yellow type, or however Stacy described hers, in their stomach or whatever they said, and they've diffused it, then they're actually ready to start thinking about, like, am I prepared for this skill? And so this is where they can direct their brain about what's like actually true about their physical ability and past preparation to do this skill and determine that they are safe to be doing this. So you don't want to go through this step until they face the fear. And you want them to like ask their brain if they're actually in danger. Once they've diffused the fear, like, am I physically actually in danger? And I would say 9.9 times out of 10, they say no. And if they are at a yes, likely they shouldn't be trying the skill anyways because they're not mentally in a place to be doing it. That's what we teach. Like, if you legitimately believe, if you are out of fear and you're in your logical thinking brain and you believe that you're not safe to do the skill, then likely you're not in a place where you should be attempting the skill, and you should have a conversation with your coach or parent or both or whatever that is. Okay. And so you want to teach them how to decide things are safe. You don't want them to just run across the street without looking both ways. They look both ways to make sure that they're safe to do the skill, because that's logical. So we're teaching them to look both ways here and then to actually decide if they're safe. And then help them remember the past steps that they've already mastered towards the skill. Like, what are the things you did leading up to this? What are the drills? I mean, even if you don't know gymnastics, asking them like, oh, what are the things you've done leading up to this? Have you done stations or drills or other skills that help you learn this? Usually they might spit out a bunch of stuff that you have no idea what it means, and you can be like, great. But it helps them actually go back and think about the things that they've done to prepare, and then determine if it's something they actually want to do. So this will help them, one, reduce the pressure from outside people. Because when I say it's something that they want to do, this means that it's not their coach telling them they have to, or you as a parent telling them they have to, which a lot of times they put that on themselves. I don't even want to put that on you guys, but they're like, well, I have to do this skill in order to reach the next level and blah, 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 blah. And they go through all this. When they feel like they have to do something, that's just a lot of pressure and a lot more negative emotion and negative energy towards trying to do the skill. And when they decide they want to do it because they want to go to the next level, because they think it'll be fun, because that's what they've always wanted or whatever it is, when it's a want instead of a have to, then they like remember why, and they are all excited to do it and try to take those steps, and it can really just lighten that mood. So really helping them determine if it's something they want versus something somebody else wants. So how you can say this, what are the progressions you have done to prepare for this skill? Do you think you are physically capable of actually doing it? What is one new thing you tried today? I love this one because it's not like a, did you go for it? Did you not? But like, what is one new thing that you tried today? And that can open their mind up to doing different things, trying different things, and really focusing on what they need to do in order to make it happen. How will doing this skill help you reach your goals? Do you think you are actually in danger doing this skill? And how can you keep yourself safe? I like that one too, because really all they're looking for in this stage is to feel safe. And there tends to be a lot of things that they can do that makes them feel safe. They like to rely on like, well, I do it when my coach is spotting me because my coach will save me. I'm like, no. But like, what can you be in charge of that makes you feel safe? So there's a lot there. I know I'm seeing the slides. Like, there's a lot of information. You will get more, but let's go on to focusing on a new feeling, Stacy.
Yeah. So the question about like when they've done something that you're like, well, I can't argue with them that they would feel fear, like they broke a foot, they did something. Here's the reality. They're still going to feel fear, and we're not trying to tell them that they shouldn't. Even when they are safe, even when they've set themselves up for safety, gymnastics has a danger element to it. So in our Master Your Mental Blocks course, which we'll tell you a little bit more about in the future, is like we actually take them through a deeper process to process through kind of their emotions around, especially if they've already been injured on a skill. This is kind of step one, lesser things, but they're going to feel afraid, and that's okay. So what we want to do is help them actually focus in on a new feeling. So you have 60,000 thoughts a day. I don't know how they measure that, but that's what they say. And you have lots of thoughts and feelings all going on at the same time. And so when, like, even right now, as you guys are listening to this, you have a million different thoughts that you're thinking. Okay, well, not a million, but less than 60,000. And each of those thoughts are causing different feelings. But your brain is focused in on one at a time. And so what we want to do is let the fear be there, or the frustration or the anger, whatever the other negative emotion is that's blocking them, but then refocus their brain on the feeling that is actually going to fuel them to do what they want to do. So you see our little flashlight up there. Their flashlight is like their brain is a flashlight, and the fear is still over here. It's still there. They're carrying it with them. Remember, it didn't go away. It gets to ride along with. It's in the back seat. It's on the backpack, whatever the imagery is. The feeling's going to come with them. We allowed the fear to be there. But now we're going to refocus the brain on a different feeling that is going to help fuel them to do what it is they actually want to do. I was coaching a little girl on this today, and we were talking about, have you ever been in a place where like a fire alarm just keeps going off, and it just keeps going off, and it just keeps going off. And I was like, imagine you had to like take a math test and that fire alarm was still going off. How do you focus in on the math test? How do you focus in on what you want to do and ignore the fire alarm? So we started calling it the fear alarm. Your brain is going to put the fear alarm on. It's going to keep going. But we just want to let the fear alarm fade to the background and focus in on an emotion that's going to help you be more productive in your skill. So some of the emotions that I really love to choose from is determined, optimistic, focused, engaged, courageous, brave, curious. That's my favorite. An emotion that is going to help fuel them. So their body needs to know exactly what it needs to do. Their brain needs to be telling their body, until they've developed complete muscle memory on a skill, their body needs to be telling them, you need to run, you need to have a long hurdle, you need to snap your feet under. It needs to tell it what to do. And so I like to have them pick out one thing they're going to do, and then tell themselves, now I'm going to focus on this thing, or I'm determined to do this thing, or I wonder if I do this thing, if that will help me get the skill. And so they're going to move their brain towards something more productive. So their current feeling is simply negative because they're thinking something that's preventing them from doing what they want to do. And they might struggle to come up with the new positive emotion. So you might help inspire them towards it. They are all, every one of them, every time going to tell you that what they want to feel to do their new skill is confident. The problem is that confident is a feeling that is usually generated from a thought like, I've done this a million times. I know exactly how to do this. I can do this in my sleep. Confident is a feeling that we get when we have done something. And so we want to help them feel. So the confidence comes on the other side of it, but it's not usually an emotion that they can generate to create the new thing that they don't have evidence for yet. So trying to help them come up with other things like, well, could you be determined? Could you be focused? That kind of thing. Seeing it for them. They may not be able to see on the other side of having the skill of being able to do it without a problem. So you seeing it for them. And I even like to ask them permission. I know that right now you can't see yourself getting to the other side of this mental block. Can I see it for you? Can I believe it for you? I just have this vision of you going into the gym and jumping up on the bars and, hitting that release or jumping to that high bar, doing that without a problem. It's just super easy for you. And then hitting it in the meet. Can I envision that for you? And, we work with a lot of teenagers. So teenager to mom, the response may not be amazing. They might not be like, thank you, mom, for seeing that for me. But it means a lot to them. And it does help them envision a future when you start envisioning that future and talking from that future to them. And then potentially giving examples how they've done this in the past, helping them remember. Remember last year when you were really afraid of, and then you actually got that? Like, this is going to be like that. I can see it for you. So things that you might say is, wouldn't it be really cool to feel afraid and determined? Helping them just think of like, wouldn't it be cool to be able to feel both? In fact, we like to tell them the brave is afraid and determined. Courageous is afraid and willing. Like, you can't be brave or courageous if you're not feeling fear. I wonder what the future you who has this skill, already did this thing, will be feeling. Now, they're probably going to say confident, but I would say will be feeling to have done it. Do you have an example of any other skills that you used to be afraid of but are totally able to do right now? And these are things that can help them refocus their brain on this new emotion. So wrapping up the 4 F's: face the feeling, feel the feeling, find the facts, focus on a new feeling. And in the course that we have, that we actually take kids through this, we have a wrap up worksheet where we teach them how to be able to do this and use this in the gym. Right now I'm feeling fear, and that's okay. I'm going to open up to it, breathe into it, and take it with me. I know that I'm prepared because, and then evidence of the prepared, and I'm going to focus instead on sitting square before I go. And then they go for the skill. And we actually break that even down to even simpler sentences that then they're able to just rattle off to themselves right before they go. But it's really about putting the whole process together. What they try to do right now usually is focus on a new feeling, but until you've actually done the first 3, it doesn't work because your brain is so consumed with the feeling of fear. Because of like the keeping us safe survival, our brain is always going to prioritize fear and anger over any other emotion. And so they can't force themselves into a new emotion while fear is still at the top. So they got to do the first 3 to get to the last one, but it is the last one that powers them through.
Yeah, and I just want to say that's when you hear them say a lot like, I'm trying to be positive, but I can't. Usually they're trying to tell themselves that they can do something and they just can't quite believe it yet. And so then it ends up being the I can't, and you get stuck. And so that's